The name's Mabus, and after a few years it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone anymore that the traditional style of Zelda dungeons have been changed for Breath of the Wild. Now some like the new approach made to the temples, while others wanted to return to the good old days. And personally, while I thought it was a fun new mechanic to alter the layout of each dungeon, I felt as if that wasn't enough to pass it as an actual level. They were just too short, which ultimately make them insignificant in a dungeon ranking of the entire series. But fortunately for all you Breath of the Wild fans, this list is based solely on this game, and there isn't any outside competition that, let's be honest here, would absolutely crush these poor excuses of temples. Scraping the bottom of this list is Vanivorus, which was, for me at least, the most difficult and took the longest. So, all of 15 minutes. But dirty cheap shots aside, this level actually took a decent while through the first time I played it, and was probably the most confusing of all the Divine Beasts. A giant camel touring around the desert provided some of the most beautiful views of the entire game, while a gentle desert theme played in the background. It certainly had great atmosphere. It also had great verticality, being the second highest in the air and the ability to climb even higher yet up the very structure itself. The scenery witnessed on the environment around you was surely a sight to behold, even if it was only just sand and desert. But what made this one of the more difficult Divine Beasts was the introduction of electrical currents as a method of solving puzzles and progressing through the level. By charging up the locked doors and moving the very structure itself allowed the electrical currents to flow throughout the dungeon, which opened pathways and permitted you to advance further. The electrical component of this temple could definitely exercise the brain. Bharadanya is a bit of a different take on a fire dungeon. The level starts off in the pitch black. You need to generate your own light via fire in order to get through and obtain the map. Nice touch. Once you do, the skylights open up and brighten the interior of the Divine Beast so you can see, simultaneously showcasing the inside of the volcano where Bharadanya sits. All while the volcano music imparts a feeling of urgency upon you. Overall, a pretty nice design for a fire dungeon. But the highlight is yet to come, because as cool as all of the symbolism and tone is, the main event of this dungeon is a pyromaniac's dream, lighting basically everything on fire. Need to open a door? Light a torch. Pesky wood barriers blocking the door? Not a problem for a fire arrow. Metal blocks hidden in rubble? Just ignite it and watch it go up in flames. Remember kids, every problem can be solved with fire. The bigger the problem, the bigger the fire. If there's any dungeon in this game that had the right idea for a future Zelda game, it was Hyrule Castle. A free roam, explore, find, possibly backtrack a few times to try different things type of level. One with a variety of enemies, loot, a couple mini-bosses, and even a few things that could be considered a dungeon item. Tack on some badass music and we have ourselves a future Zelda game today. However, this place could be refined a bit by having a little bit more distinct examples of loot, mini-bosses, and a dungeon item. Just enough to make it more meaningful and significant to your journey, like it is somehow important. Something where you don't need the item to beat the temple, but it would certainly make the trip a lot easier and fun. Or maybe even just a slight cutscene after getting the item. Overall, I think they are on the right track with this one. It just needs a few tweaks. I don't know about the majority of you, but this was the very first Divine Beast that I came across. I feel that the game is designed to lead you to this one first. It doesn't have to be done first, but it's almost secretly recommended.
I suggest that you make your way east out to one of the villages in the wilderness.
And I do like the idea of that, because it is the easiest dungeon on this list. And why not lead new players to this one first? Then on replays you can change it up once you are more accustomed to the controls. Varuta was a pretty basic and gentle dungeon, which actually paired very well with the music and the environment, creating an exquisite atmosphere. But one of the highlights for me, other than the beautiful surroundings to look at, was the part leading up to the temple. Riding on Prince Sidon's back like a jet ski, swimming up waterfalls, and doing some bullet-time slow-mo bow sniping while fending off Varuta's defenses was an exhilarating, almost pre-boss fight type of scenario that I could definitely get used to. That's one of the things that this game did well with all of their dungeons. There's that meaningful statement of something significant is happening and is important to your journey. Take note. Oh wait, I did, Nintendo. I did. I may be afraid of heights, but something always fascinated me about the sky. More specifically, a base or a temple in the sky. Like, what is up there? And what are they hiding from those of us here on the ground? And what in Hylia's name is keeping it from crashing to Earth? In this case, nothing special, just a bird-looking plane flying around in the sky. Still cool though, but I still want to get up there and see what's hiding inside. Valmeado uses wind as a primary element in this dungeon, allowing you to glide around easily and quickly. And with the ability to manipulate the bank of the Divine Beast to your advantage, you can reach places that you would otherwise not be able to if the map was flat. The music definitely gives off a magical, mystical feeling, and its puzzles inside were very fun too since they utilized gravity. Which, when you think about it, is actually a pretty cool element to focus on, seeing as how it's always there, but it's often overlooked. Gravity is also kind of mystical in a way too, because with all of our technology, research, and exploration, we still don't really know what the fuck it is, making it feel like a secret that the gods are trying to keep hidden from those of us here on the ground. This has been Mabus, and if you notice throughout this countdown, I didn't explain too much about each dungeon, and that wasn't by design. Other than the bosses that I deliberately left out for their own video, I had basically nothing to talk about for each dungeon. They were practically void of enemies, no mini-bosses, no boss key, not even a dungeon item. And this is why I consider Breath of the Wild to be so empty in my Breath of the Wild overrated video. There's just no meaningful content.
There's nothing here. There's nothing here!
So as much as they were interesting to do and look at, they just don't measure up as proper dungeons to the rest of them. And this is one of the reasons why most people want them to return to the old-fashioned temples. Hopefully that's what's going to happen in sequel. So in the meantime and in between time, stay tuned for more.